This is a video about some very rare antique air pistols made by Oscar Will. I'm a big fan of Oscar Will's early gallery guns. These were low power spring piston air guns made for target shooting over short distances. Along with those though, Oscar Will also made a range of air pistols. Luckily for us, air pistol expert and friend of the channel, John Griffiths, has agreed to talk us through a selection of very rare Oscar Will air pistols.
Oscar Will was one of the first people to produce air pistols. He was based in Germany, and starting in the early 19th century, moving through to the late 19th century, he was producing initially guns of this type. This is a crank-wound pistol of his. You can see cocked by using a separate crank handle, which is wound like so. And this was produced over quite a long period, probably starting about 1870, I would say, lasting up until about 1911. His interest in pistols continued, and the next one that he produced, he referred to in his catalogues as the patent pistol. Here's an example. And this particular one was introduced in about 1896. And it survived until, according to catalogues, about 1902. Weirdly, although it's called the patent pistol, it wasn't patented in Germany. The only patent we know of to Oscar Will's name was in Britain, and that was patented in 1896. The other interesting point is that a patent to this design was actually applied for in Belgium in 1887 by someone called Leonard Poilvash. What the connection between him and Oscar Will is, I don't know, but they're obviously the same design, same pistol, and but the only ones we know of today were made by Oscar Will. This particular one is interesting in having an intricately carved grip and a slightly different rake to the more commonly encountered ones. The more usual ones, as an example here, does have a different rake here and has a simple checkered grip. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. These are very heavy pistols, very easy to cock, not particularly powerful. And these survived until about 1902. The next pistol that he introduced, he called the Universal Pistol. Probably a good name because it actually went on to be used for many years in quite different forms. So it was quite a universal pistol. This is quite a small one of the types that he made. Has the vulcanite grip and the barrel release lever here also provides the rear sight. And you can see here we have the Oscar Will logo of the huntsman with his dog. Now this patent pistol, using this particular type of linkage here and the fact that the cocking lever is of that shape, was continued into larger pistols, and the next one that came along, as exemplified here, is much bigger, but it was still called in the catalogues the Universal Pistol. And you can see it's very similar design around the breech area here, same shape of the cocking lever. You'll notice that this particular example doesn't have a trigger guard, and it never did because there are no screw holes for a trigger guard, and it doesn't have any sights. There are no notches for sights anywhere. And that tells us that this was actually used in some form of shooting game or shooting booth, where it was deemed that trigger guards were totally unnecessary, unnecessary expense, and the lack of sights made the shooting more of a challenge. So the This type of pistol was also available with trigger guard and sights for normal target use, of course, as well. This was then followed by a slightly modified form, still called the Universal. And now there's some adaptation around here. This is a pretty scruffy one. And you can see that this was also intended for shooting games, because there's a notch in the barrel here which would take some kind of clamp for holding it to the booth. But this does have the sights and the trigger guard. The next one I have to show you is quite similar, but this doesn't have the trigger guard, doesn't have the sights. So you can see that Oscar Will was very much into providing guns to the entertainment industry, as it were, the fairgrounds and the hotels and so forth. So a lot of his pistols at this period are designed mainly for public use in exhibits, etc. This pistol actually lasted right up until the outbreak of World War I, up until 1914. The next pistol that he introduced, he called the Tell. This was actually used in some form of shooting game or shooting booth. So in conclusion, we can see that Oscar Will was one of the most prolific air pistol producers of the late 19th, early 20th century, and he was particularly interested in providing guns for the entertainment industry. And then in 1921, he sold the company to Wilhelm Voss. And after that point, pistol production did resume, but only with such pistols as the Tel 1, Tel 2 and Tel 3.
Huge thanks to John for showing us these fantastic air pistols. What a privilege. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks a lot. Bye.